He's not a friend, he feels your breath, ruins men, he's a lion.
We branded this conversation Dissonance because cognitive dissonance is such a common theme in mental health, and dissonance is also very present in music. In both cases, we're seeking resolution.
A lot of the things that we're talking about, we don't talk about as a society at large.
Adam Levy is an outstanding moderator for these sorts of events. Because he's so connected personally to some of these issues, he was more than game to jump on board and moderate the conversation.
Dissonance was important for me because I know a lot of students who struggle with mental illness, to bring in artists that were well known and just to ask them, how do you manage to get over this or function with these sorts of struggles?
I had gotten into the habit of, I'd go on tour, I'd be sober, and then as soon as I'd get off of tour, it was just like binge, binge, binge until I have to go on tour again.
People say it's a constant struggle, but I actually find that it's a constant struggle was before.
The conversation does move seamlessly between substance abuse and addiction and concerns about stress and mental health issues.
I want to open it up to questions.
What do you guys think of the stigma of, like, in order to play a good show, you have to be loaded?
Watching my friends play drunk enough times convinced me that it wasn't a good idea. I think most people, they don't necessarily drink because they think it's going to be a better show. They drink because they're nervous and they want to feel like they're alone almost on stage.
Particularly contemporary music is so often tied with the bar scene and drug use and alcohol use, and it's often very glamorized. So there are a lot of co-occurring issues between substance abuse and mental illness.
It just didn't even occur to me that possibly I was living a damaging cycle. This song is a lot about seeing each other struggle and not doing anything about it, with the idea that suffering creates almost like a sanctification process. So that's kind of what this song touches on a little bit.
Drought makes the roots grow deeper and deeper till you pass the earth's crust and you're soaking in molten lava. If you'd have pushed a little harder, I would have fallen, 'cause I'm black and I'm sure.
Well, because mental illness is an invisible disability, there is very often this illusion that it's something that you can just get over, or doesn't really exist.
It's certainly viewed by some as a sort of weakness of character, which is I feel, a very old-fashioned way of understanding mental illness.
I've been dealing with chronic depression and anxiety for the past 9 years. Sometimes I just feel like I can't find a solid path to go on. And I just was wondering if any of you have ever had that problem, and how have you dealt with that?
Thank you for your bravery. I'd like it if you answer this question to this gentleman here with maybe a sort of edge of what do you do when you feel that hopelessness, that kind of abyss.
Saying something, whether you're saying it to somebody next to you or going to a counselor and saying it, we all need to be okay knowing that people struggle with it.
Also know that these people in the room now, they're not going to define you by those terms. That's something you're struggling with, but it's not who you are. Remember that.
And you're not alone. There's many, many people, maybe even some in this room, that are feeling like you do. Can you tell the difference between normal stress and your reaction to maybe more intense problems or issues that you're struggling with?
I'm a recovering addict, an alcoholic, and I'm also bipolar. When I think I'm making decisions that are okay. I tend to sometimes be making some pretty bad decisions, and a lot of that is because addiction and mental illness, it's a brain disease, and it took me a long time to realize that it was okay to be honest with people around me so that they could be honest with me. So this is a song I actually wrote while I was there in treatment. It was a few years ago. I checked in December, and so I spent all the holidays there, and it was a magical time, let me tell you.
Maybe you guys can talk about some of those things that you do for self-care.
Becoming a morning person and eating breakfast every day. Like, even if you're not a morning person, like, treating your body well, just, first of all, your mind works better, but it's almost addicting because you no longer want to destroy yourself because it feels too good to have your health and to be treating your family and friends well. It feels really good.
Mental illness is something that we don't ever erase, those of us that have it in our lives. We figure out ways to cope with it, but it's always there. And the trick is to try and figure out as many things that you can do to get through and to find hope.
I had an analogy that I came up with. Somebody else might have said it. You're staring at this brick wall that's like right in front of your face, and you can see nothing but that brick wall. And each day that goes by, you take a step back from that wall, and suddenly you see, oh, there's a window here, there's a door here, there's a thing, oh, here's a building, and then you get further away, and suddenly you can see that it's a 13-story building, and there's all these other buildings, and then you really get a clear picture of yourself and what you're looking at. And I think the biggest problem that most people have, or at least that I had, is that I wanted to get fixed, and I wanted to happen immediately. And it's a constant sort of working towards an eventual goal. And that's the best way I can put it. I already had the capo on, so this is already, it's kind of pre-planned. It's kind of about being in that moment of like wanting to get better and knowing that you're going to do, I guess whatever it takes to get there, even though you don't know exactly how you're going to get there.